Thank you, Helene, for your kind introduction. Good evening to everybody. We are very pleased to be here, and we have to repeat some thanks at the beginning. Thank you to the University of Melbourne for the invitation, and thank you to the Naomi Milgrom Foundation and the MPavilion team for managing this wonderful week we are doing in Melbourne now with a lot of weight that it was possible to happen. And thank you also to the Italian Institute of Culture and that support also our the possibility to be here with all of you. We will share with you walk through our project, our main build project this evening, and the title is of this walkthrough, this talk is Build on Build. Build on Build, it seems obvious coming from a city like Venice and a country like Italy, but also has, in our opinion, an extended meaning related also to, for example, the huge periphery we have in Italy, and the north of our country is completely full of kind of spread, and we build everywhere, and we have to protect some part of the countryside that remain. And also build on build, in our opinion, with the articulation of the anthropic landscape and also all the input come for our work from this. And I would like to start with a consideration. Did Octavio Paz, the Mexican critic and poet, is my translation in English, because so for that I'm sorry if it's not perfect. There is a bridge between tradition and modernity. Separated, tradition become petrified and modernity evaporate. But when joined together, one gives life to the other, and the other responds by giving it weight and gravity. Also, in some way, we reconnect to a theme of the Italian Design Day of this year, that the main theme is regenerare, to regenerate. Also, considering that in some way sustainability is very connected to rethink our life and our cities, and not just a worry about the waste of energy. Because if we lose the memory and we are not able to reinvent our city and our environment, thinking also that, for example, this city as the fundamenta of it's beautiful in the continuous reinventing and reshaping, also against and protect himself from the environment, the lagoon, the sea, and this is one of the aspects that probably let love so much all around the world. And I end with an image of our office, and so we deal every day with the history surround us in the historical center of Venice, but believe that we have continued to deal with this reinvention and this extended meaning of built on built.
The first work we are presenting is the restoration of Portanova Tower, that it's a really particular building in the Arsenale of Venice. In the 2006, we won a competition to do the restoration of this building. That is a building that was supposed to be designed to masting the vessel before they are going to the sea. In this image, you can see the arsenale in the configuration, the actual configuration. This is the arsenale in the actual configuration, and this is the factory in which, for centuries, the Venetian created their ship to struggle in the Mediterranean. And in the beginning, the ships went out from this canal, and they went out from the Bacino di San Marco. Then, when the ship became huger and huger, they forced to open another door in this position towards the sea. This competition involved this part of the arsenal and presented 4 themes. One was the new entrance to this part of the arsenal, a new connection with the cultural part of the Biennale, and then a new canteen in this place, and the renovation of the Portanova Tower. As we can see in this drawing, it was a machine. It was a machine to masting the vessels, and it was completely void in his interior, except for some engines. In this drawing, you can see that it was, the building was divided in 3 parts, with an entrance and 2 sectors in the first floor, in the ground floor. And you had the feeling of the building just in the first floor, in which you can experience the depth of the building through these big arches in the walls. When we started, after to have won the competition, we started to work, we found the building in a terrible condition. It was completely crumbling, and we could see the interior just in this part, coming up from a staircase and just to have a vision here. And it was, for the improper use they did as a crane, it was cracked all along the walls. We won the competition because we, in a way, recognize that the void in between the ground floor and the part of the cover was a typological void that we should not interest with particular additions. And so we concentrate the function the brief asks in the ground floor and in the upper part. And there was another reason because we won the competition, because they asked to bring the people also that has some problem to walk or are on wheelchairs till the upper part of the terrace. And there were a lot of restriction to do this, and we found the right way, articulating a promenade, an architectural promenade in the upper part of the building. Here you can see the functional program. We concentrated, as I said, on the top and on the floor, and we maintain the central part as with the main function that is exhibition space. Here you have some picture about the building site that was quite hard because of the very small, narrow space, and because also of the crumbling building. We had to build and rebuild the scaffolding several times to reach the parts. This is the upper part, completely empty from the crumbling structure, and you can see they start to put the ramp to reach the terrace. We had to learn how to deal with the measure also of the tower, because the survey was not very well done because of the crumbling building, and so we had to do special drawing to communicate our intention to the builders. For example, to be on a line with the element, because sometimes the old wall were not completely straight, and so they were bent or inside or outside, and we didn't have any trace of this. So we just communicate our intention, sometimes not with real measure, but with drawing that were intentional drawing. Here the result in the ground floor, where we placed a small conference hall and this kind of shell for louder the intensity of the speaker's voice. The staircase that is connecting the ground floor with the first floor, and this is the staircase that become a device to read this spectacular space. Here you can see some picture about the space and the drawing of the staircase with this balcony that become a device to read all the space when you are slightly go up. Of course, we hidden in the other part a lift for the people that cannot do this experience. This is the upper part in which they request to have some offices and some a lecture space, and we provide a hanging room. All the strategy was always to keep detached, as you can see, the new and towards the old, so you can recognize what we inserted and what we preserve. This is the starting point of the promenade architectural tower, a point in which you have a lift that is bringing you on the terrace. The last thing very important is that we try always to reach something that we found, like this wonderful window, to have a new a particular look to the city of Venice from upstairs. Here you have the terrace. You can see the city of Venice from a different point of view, because it's not very tall, it's just 36 meters, but it's enough tall to confront with the Tower Bell, and you can have this particular view towards the lagoon and towards the Bacino di San Marco. This is the building from outside, from the new doors towards the sea.
Another intervention is in a small town in the center of Italy. It's Ferrara. Is worldwide well known for his urbanism and the design of the city made during the Renaissance. And this was a very particular commission, because our client is the owner of the last piece of a countryside inside the historical wall of the city. Between two cemeteries, the Catholic one is on this side, and the Jewish is on this side. And without any real estate logic, the client want to preserve this condition, and for that to do a renovation of this building. That is a quite ancient building because we found them in a plan of the city of the 18th century. It was longer, and then the measure which arrived to us. And it was divided in two parts. One part was a stable and a barn at the first floor, and the other half was a farmer house that, as is possible to see in this image, and the farmer opened windows where he needs. And in some way, the original design of the architectural elements became very confused. It was possible to demolish the canopy and to get the volume, to do another volume on the side of the ancient building. And we use these possibilities to put in this annex, in this new annex, all the systems that let functioning the farmhouse. And the ancient building became a new function related to the hospitality, with a restaurant and a kitchen and a breakfast room at the ground floor, and then at the upper floor rooms for the host, preserving also, as we will see, the double height of the barns. The annex is a very simple building that connects itself with the height of the ancient walls. There is a very beautiful walkway on the top of the ancient walk, and it seems proper to respect this limit. And it's made in two parts, with a corten steel box with all the system inside, and another part with a wooden, more vibrant surface that hosts the offices to manage the farmhouse. The ground floor, as I said, was divided into two parts. It's easy to recognize: the stable from one side and the farmhouse to the other. And we search to highlight this particular condition. So in a few minutes from the traffic of the city, you arrive in this place, and you are in a completely preserved landscape. And so for that, we try to put the circulation near the windows to have this continuous feeling of the place, the special place in which you are, and putting all the facilities in the heart of the building, and doing that with a wooden box. So moving, you can feel the landscape, and moving also a stair in the center of the building and connecting the two parts in an easier way. Also, we have a crossing view across the building, and also framing an ancient well from a side on the garden. The first floor was from one side with the room for the guest, and the other side we preserved the barn with the double height. This new stair has some gravity connected with the ground, made by concrete with a wooden cladding, and became lighter going up, also like a tree, we say, like a tree inside the building, and letting the light became in the heart of, arriving in the heart of the building. You can see better in this section, also the relationship between the double height of the barn and the rest of the building. And also to recuperate the the design and to keep clean the original historical design of the building that was very simple as regular elements. We imagine this new redesign of the windows inside one system that we called vertical tatami, because we start from the rules, the geometrical rules from the tatami, and this, the windows became also devices to shed, to get some shadow and protect from the sun that in the summer is very strong. And the building continuously modify itself, showing the life happen inside. And from the barns with the double height, this system of windows became in some way a kind of painting gallery to the landscape.
We are back in Venice, and build on build, sometimes for us meaning also built in a built context. This is the new terminal tram in Piazzale Roma. Piazzale Roma is in this part of Venice, that is the western part of Venice, that is the place in which during the 19th and the 18th century, the modernization arrived in Venice and changed completely the scale of the city. A completely different scale comparison with the rest of the city. So we have larger spaces and building of high dimension, like this garage for car parking. And in the middle of Piazzale Roma, the administration, the municipality, decided to arrive in the center with the tram stop. They decided to arrive in the center. They provide a quarry, but they discovered that they didn't have anything to shelter the people. And then, so they start to looking for architects to find and do this operation. Our project was referring the idea to give a measure to this place. In a way, we're referring to some experience of land art, for example, Donald Judd, that had these very clear elements that are measuring the space in different ways. Or always referring to art work, we try to find a way to give a space that become a place. So something that people can recognize and meet, have a recognizable place. In this case, you can see a very well-known Nighthawk by Edward Hopper. So we provide a shelter that is long 32 meters and is on just one pillar. It's a beam that is just bare, but just with the one pillar in the center. Some drawings, technical drawings about this. We thought this element with everything integrate, of course, and we are always very careful to try to integrate systems inside the figuration of our project. Here's some picture about the building site. The beam was made with sheets of iron that were flanged, and here you can see the central pillar that is heavy. Come si dice?
Welded. No.
Heavy, no, volevo dire...
The systems for the water?
No.
In italiano, please. Sorry.
l'armatura che è molto forte.
Reinforced concrete.
Sì, ma l'armatura.
Reinforced concrete.
Ok, reinforced concrete. I'm sorry, I didn't have the terms. It's it's almost just iron and less concrete.
And we made it with a special
Yeah,
concrete.
we made it with a special concrete.
That,
Here you have some picture of the relationship between the tram and the new terminal. Here is a funny picture about life, because this project had a lot of discussion in the city because they thought it was too much art. But then in the 2018, it has a revenge because it was a project with which we won the prize for Italian architect. And the motivation of the jury, that was very good jury, according to my opinion.
It's not a balanced opinion, but
was the ability to operate in a complex context with a contemporary language and measured solutions.
We go back to the center of Italy, and in the city of Bologna, that is the main city of Emilia-Romagna region, and is a middle-sized city as an historical center, obviously bigger than Ferrara, we see before, and a huge periphery all around because there are a lot of expansion with residential, overall a very strong presence of industry related of high-level machine, packaging machine, And this place is the headquarters of a world leader that product this kind of machine for tobacco and to package the tobacco, and to have an input to consider the level of the production. They produce a machine that is able to pack 1,000 packets of cigarettes in 1 minute, starting from paper and from tobacco. And they ask to requalify, to start a requalification of this original plot. Is around 50,000 square meters, and had an expansion during starting from the 40s of the 20th century with a continuous addition of different buildings, but without a clear design, and for that they want to restart a complete requalification of this area. The program was quite simple. They need a new office building with some meeting rooms, some classrooms for the people that is supposed to use this machine, because it's very complicated to manage, and there is a kind of formation, a specific formation, and also some meeting rooms. And what is interesting and special of this program is also to realize an archives of photograph. It means in analogic sense. It means to preserve the negatives of the black and white photos or color photos. Each of them has different needs in terms of temperature and humidity. And to the other side, we were near of the airport of the city, in a so-called inner horizontal zone, and it means that we have a limit in height. But the client wants a tall building and a transparent building. And so for that, as this first sketch in some way are showing, we try to find the way to preserve the number of useful floor and working with the ground, realizing the lobby under the zero level of the ground. And also to get this idea of height and transparency, we realize a very thin building is just almost 12 meters by almost 27. And this is the general plan, and we demolished these 3 small buildings, and we realized the new building and this articulation of the ground to arrive at -2 meters to have the lobby, and also realizing that is in some way unexpected in an industrial plot, more than 1,500 square meters of new gardens. Some image from the building site. We use these special glasses that is extra white on a gray base, and also that they are able to reflect the light of the sky in a very particular way. Some image around the building, and the articulation of the ground also involve some small sculptural volumes that allow to the system underground to exchange air in a proper way. A more detailed plan, and you can see the different way to reach the lobby with stair, with ramp, and also we realize a border to the garden with a big step that can consent also to the people that work inside the building to have a break in the sun near the trees. To get this transparency of the building, we work a lot on the structural solution, and so we have a core that is the pillar of the building, and then we have a structure that is a post-tensioned concrete structure with the main 3 beams and a main cantilever and another smaller cantilever all around the building. This is the plan of the level, the normal level of the building with 2 open space. The core with the lift, stairs. We had to do 2 stairs for the fire rules, and the toilets. And this is the projection of the 3 main beams and the cantilever all around. To do that, it was very challenging because as you said in this one of the first sketch, in 40 centimeters we had structure, systems, and flooring. And also reversing the slab and the connection with one of the 3 main beams, we can allow to work the system for the floor here, and then to allow to put all the electrical system for the outside floor. Some detailed image finally of the connection. We managed to realize the glass facade with cells. I looked to Sam that helped me last night to remember the right word in English. So prefab elements that also for the come si dice velocità del cantiere, to be quick, yes. And this also a very challenging choice and a request by the client was to have the core with facing concrete. And so for that, we managed to have a very quick building site, but also paying a lot of attention to preserving this surface. In this image, you can see the cable of the post-tensionist of the main cantilever, and then the connection between the cantilever on the limits of the floor, and in some terms the form, the figure of the building and this regular square design came also from these needs to connect the cantilever with these steel elements with the tension, the cables, and to keep the horizontal, the perfect horizontal of the elements. Some image of the assembly of the glass facade was very, very fast, and when we were completing the last floor of the building, we started to put the facade inside. Another particular attention was to the acoustic comfort inside this building, because we have glass, we have concrete, and we have all reflecting surface. And for that, we designed a small, how do you say, a small nicchia. Sorry. A small place to put this cladding that is a wood that is able to absorb the noise, and so to balance and to realize the comfort of the spaces, of the working spaces. Some image of this kind of plaza, and 2 meters below the level, the normal level of the ground, and this sculptural element related to the system, the ramps, and the cladding also around the glass element was made by stainless steel that was micro-shooted with ceramics balls that consent also to keep it very plain and very clean. Another challenging theme connected with this underground world that has the building is a tunnel that connects different parts of this plot, and was very challenging because it's 95 meters of length, and we had a lot of restriction because we had a pipeline, existing pipeline, and so we have to go down and then to go up. And so finally, starting from restriction, we tried to find an architectural principles to articulate the space, and also in some way orienting the way in which you can cross the space. So in every direction, the space changes, and in this step on the ceiling, you have a skylight that also highlight a connection to a building. Also, the park was made with a lot of attention. All the systems are hidden by the metal ceiling. I go forward, and some image of the building, and from the other side of the road.
We are again in Venice. We are in the 2018, and the Holy See wanted to have the first pavilion at the International Architectural Biennale. So they decided to realize this pavilion on the wooden part of the island of San Giorgio that you can see here. It's an island that is in front of San Marco Square. It has a wooden part that was added in the 50s. The curator was Professor Francesco Dalcò, decided to organize as an exhibition a real construction with 10 chapels made by 10 international architects, and one pavilion that was explaining the theme of this exhibition. The theme of the exhibition was the Woodland Chapel by Gunnar Asplund, that you can see in this picture. That it was the theme gave to every architect to be reinterpreted. In our pavilion, we were called to follow all the chapel in the execution, and we were supposed to draw the Asplund Pavilion. That means a supporting building that was hosting the drawing and the models of the theme that he gave to the architect. Here you can see the environment in which this chapel is, that is the cemetery of Stockholm, and here you can see some supporting buildings that Asplund in itself drawing for this environment. We, as a reference in a way for this building, we thought to this supporting building and to supporting building to the wooden church in the Nordic culture. In this case, you can see some tower bells. So the idea was to build something that was integrating the idea of Nordic building in interpreted languages and the exhibition in itself. We provide a building that is in which the exhibition is strictly integrated inside the structure of the building. We did 11 modules, yes, in which we put this kind of device to show the drawings and then also the models. It's the building presents a slightly bent towards outside wall that let the visitor have a look to the drawings in a better way, as you can see in this detailed drawing. The inner part and the cladding were realized by an Italian manufacturer for wooden materials for interiors, that is Alpi, that for us studied, here a plan, for us studied a particular material to clad all the exterior. That was in reconstituted wood, but in a thick dimension. So this company provides for us this material, with which we did a lot of shingle. There were 9,000 that the builders put handily, one to one. Here you can see the result that, according to us, was in a way reminding to this idea of light and shadows that you have in the Nordic forest. Here the building site, it was very quick because the assembly was quite fast. Here some problem, some discussion how to solve the problem of the angle with the shingles, the skylights, the structure with the facade, and the final result. This building and the other chapel, in a way, requalify this part of the island of San Giorgio, because from temporary, they get from the state the status to be definitive. So it's, I think we succeed also in recover this place that was completely abandoned.
I go forward fast with one of our last project.
Before MPavilion.
Before MPavilion. Yeah, fast before MPavilion. And is in Vicenza, a city near Venice, well known because it's a city of Andrea Palladio. And we did, and we are still doing, we are still completing this intervention, a renovation of a complex of greenhouses inside the biggest park of the city. That was in the origin the garden of a villa of a Capra family that also was the family that commissioned to Palladio La Villa La Rotonda, that is, everybody knows. So, in the end of during the 19th century, the family expanded this garden also to design a landscape in this romantic way, realizing a walkway with statues, a small hill with a lake around, and a small temple. And as is present in a lot of villas in the Veneto region, also they realized a complex of greenhouses that has a strange tower here looking to the lake and to the temple. In the 80s of last century, the park became public, and so, but as often happens, the public has no money to take care of these things, and the greenhouses became quickly completely abandoned. This is an image of the 80s. And in some way, the greenhouses is a complex made of two parts. One is the so-called hot greenhouses, because had a system of oven in underground level that consent to bring the hot air all around and below the bedding for the plants. And one of our first sketches show one of the first strategy of the building to realize something, to repropose the volume of the greenhouses, but considering this remaining of the walls like an archaeological found in some way, keeping some respectfully distance. And this is the intervention in his design, so the system of the greenhouses, the hottest one and the cold one, and the small tower. In our another one of our main concepts was to call this complex an open greenhouses, also realizing another possibility connected to one of the main entrance to the park, with an unexpected ramp that consent to arrive to the tower, and the other entrance from the south side. And at the same time, cleaning the entrance of the park, because had some container in which they host toilets for the public and a place for the guardian of the park. We realized this new system of small volume inside a steel frame that hosts toilets and a new kiosk, bar, and restaurant. An image of the model and a more detailed plan with you can see the bed for the plants of the hot greenhouses and the cold greenhouses on the right. In the 80s was as we said. But when we start the project, the situation was this one. And for that, maybe you understand better our first sketch to preserve and working with this wall. And to do that with some particular attention, also we work with a very simple steel structure that design a kind of exoskeleton that is able to keep a roof and to suspend a roof. So keeping very clear the connection to the existing walls and having the possibility to realize the skylights, and also realizing a cladding with metal grids of this exoskeleton that involve also a public walkway on the front of the greenhouses. This is the result. Also, this suspended roof has a space inside its volume to put all the systems of the conditioning and the skylight and the distance from the historic wall. In Vicenza, there is a very particular walls made by stones and brick at the same time. From outside, also this system of cladding of grid, we had a very low budget. It was a public commission to do this intervention, so we have to find solution that was very cheap. And this cladding can open and modify the condition of the light inside the greenhouse. But it seems a volume from side, but from the front, at the same time from inside and outside, it's very transparent.
Of course, manually open, not electrical.
Not electrical. And this is the public walkway on the front that also is able to frame some element, a tree, and the feeling the connection with the landscape. And this is some image from outside. Now we were able to build just the toilet, and we are waiting to the money to complete and to realize the kiosk and the restaurant. And we are doing now the refurbishment of the small tower on the other side. We exit from this one, and we go straight to our last project. And we are particularly happy to be here in Melbourne also because it was possible for us to visit the MPavilion, and we work on this project in the last 2 years. And we have been in Melbourne in the 2019 visiting Victoria Gardens, and we feel from the first visit very interesting, the place. Very interesting because we read this like a basin, and each side of this basin has very different personalities. You have a hill with palm trees, we have a curtain of trees, we have the regular trees along St Kilda Road, and we try to manage with this condition. And we were also at the same time very intrigued to realize some apparently opposition between this articulated landscape and an idea of pavilion that became that is able from the beginning to become a kind of a signal of a totem to communicate that something happened in this place. And from one side we start to consider this intriguing apparently opposition between an abstract geometry and the articulation of the landscape. Also re-going to the art period, as also Traudy said, about the shelter in the Piazzale Roma that is full suggestion in some way, but at the same side, we can find very interesting reference also in the Fan Palace by Cedric Price. And someone also coming from Italy, in the specific, some intervention of Costantino Dardi and Bibi Pierre office. They probably are not very well known abroad, but also they did some work very interesting involving this thinking about the position between geometry and landscape and communication. So finally we focus in some way with an idea of a lighthouse, also considering, and this surely come of from the particular aspect of the MPavilion, and we feel this from the beginning when we met MPavilion team and Naomi Milgram, and this aspect that is very interesting, that architecture is just the first step. It is the first step to let a lot of things happen. And for that, we consider, went back to our office in Italy, also a work of a French photographer that for us is very interesting, that has managed this idea to put mirror in the landscape. And from the beginning, we start to realize this relationship between mirrors and an abstract absolute geometry volume, and at the beginning oriented.
At the beginning it was much more oriented in a way, and it was larger, and the idea also was to have a kind of basilica in Greek terms, in the Greek meaning of the terms. That means, like in Cedric Price, a platform for discussion, for meeting of the civic place, a real civic place.
This is one of the first images with the solution oriented, as Traudy said, and a collage that we have on the wall of our office. Then the conditions were changing. And we had to find and to manage also, if it will possible to do the pavilion, also to think very well about the dimension and about the build and the cost of the materials, and everything became a little bit more complicated. But also we share a beautiful 2 years all together and to managing all these challenging aspects.
And then we had Then we had to deal with the restriction, of course, of this period. So the idea slightly moved to a stage, a total theater in which people can gather around and not only stay inside. This is a drawing that shows you how much we thought about the position of the pillars, because in some positions the pillars were completely not permitting that people could have a perception of what was inside from outside. So in the end we came with a dynamic layout that was the fourth.
Yeah, this one.
Then we thought how we could make it more intense, for example, and we remind us a trip we did a long time ago in India, in Chandigarh, and we had a wonderful picture that unfortunately we don't have here, with the Le Corbusier structure that has some hole inside and permit that you can see through. and this is what we came in the end. Some picture of the small model, because we, in this period, in these 2 years, we did a lot of models. Here.
Yes, and then the last phase was, as Traudy said, connected with the design of the ground, and so with this dynamic layout also to find also a thinking about the needs to have something to let the program happen, and usually these elements are hidden in the previous edition in some part, and finally we decided and we discussed to have another small volume that worked in a kind of balance of a composition, that is a kiosk connected with the ground, and with this design of an organic ground, finally very colored. And one thing, the work on about the placement of the mirror start from an abstract suggestion coming from the Ulam spiral, so the geometric design of the prime numbers that, and then we realize a big model, scale 1.25, and it was possible to open, and so to look inside and to choose with attention a position for each typology of mirror. The colors, and so we consider the tones of gray for the abstract element, and then descending to the concrete structural pillars, and then the kiosk and the platform, the organic platform, with a very strong color, the yellow, also to...
Yes, as we said, because this was one of the last decision we made, and we think after this period of pandemic we need something that was really strong, that was like awake us in a way.
We need the sun, we need
and
light,
we need the sight and yes, sun and happiness. And also the yellow is a primary color that is dealing with the blue of the sky and the green of the vegetable.
What it seems very easy, very simple, also needs a very high attention to be built. And so for that, what it seems apparently easy, and also considering the other theme to assembly and disassembling this pavilion, and to find the right way to put all the elements together, in this case the welding strategy of the SHS tubes, and we share some mock-up to choose the right solution, and also to study the way to assemble on place all the prefab elements. And this work also consent to simplify the phase on the building site, and it was very useful, considering that also in October you had yet a lot of restriction. A few people were allowed in the building site, and so for that was very useful, and it was possible to build the structure together just in 1 week. Another detailed design of the connection of the elements, and as I said, this starting from the middle of October, and the 21st of October, the structure was in place. And this is some image from Victoria Gardens. You want to say something to the mirror? Yes, maybe, probably we are late.
Yeah.
remind to the first sketch we did. Thank you.